Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do the usual disclaimers, if you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take note of the article written by NeuroClastic, a small non for profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so called behavior modification program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic refused. You know the drill, folks. Please read the article. Share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC actually does see through with their threat. Trigger warning 1. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please make sure to use the headphones. Trigger warning 2. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they're watching this, very obviously parental supervision is advised, all right? So now we're going to go ahead and get into the response here. The FDA disagreed, as would any sane person who's ever dealt with anyone dealing with PTSD and other related issues, I might add. Okay? Hiding within yourself, becoming unresponsive as a survival mechanism is something that is very, very well known within the mental health community. It is absolutely insane, not to mention psychotic and unfeeling, to state that because a person was starting to react less and less to it, the aversives, that somehow that makes it okay. When with what we learned from video surveillance footage, and the FDA obviously witnessed through said surveillance footage, what they're seeing is full, utter emotional shutdown, a retreat within oneself to the point that you are so far removed psychologically from the situation, you're viewing it out your own eyes as though you're a spectator. Okay? Yeah. It's a known psychological way of coping with extreme trauma and with abuse, all right? Especially when you're in a situation that is prolonged. Let's continue, shall we? Although reference 32 reports decreased crying during one phase of the study involving contingent shock, crying increased in the final treatment phase, which also involved contingent shock. Here's the thing about that retreating into yourself, folks. It's not necessarily always within your control, particularly even if they're doing the same form of abuse. If they change it up in any way, they can shake you out of it. And guess what? You're going to react and cry and scream and beg for the pain to stop. All right? It's not a fail safe. It's not something that works every time. All right? There were situations that even when I was in that time period of my life, I would get struck differently. We'll just put it that way to keep it as subtle as humanly possible. That would shock me out of that third party perspective, bring me back into my body, as it were, to feel the full brunt of it. And guess what happens when you feel the full brunt of it? Yeah. In addition, other studies report crying as an A&E from ESDs for SIB or AB, including increases in crying during later sessions. In other words, the longer this draws on, the years and the years and the years, you're going to see almost a yo-yo effect to where we can shut down and put ourselves in those third-party perspectives in order to protect ourselves as much as humanly possible, at least psychologically. And there's going to be moments when we can't, and we are going to be screaming at our full volume because of the absolute pain being inflicted upon us. It's never completely one way or another. All right. And I'm glad that the FDA is bringing that up because that is true in a prolonged situation like this. Because crying, which is indicative of trauma, did in fact increase in the cited reference as well as other references, the FDA continues to consider increased crying as an AE associated with the use of ESDs or for SIB. And I would beg these people, when you are judging on these situations, to think about the shit you write. If I go into shut down third party perspective, that does not mean that suddenly it doesn't hurt anymore. It is a survival mechanism so that I can to endure the pain, as it were, folks. It's a way to try to turn off almost some of the receptors in your brain so that you can endure the suffering, all right? It does not mean a removal of the trauma or that the trauma has somehow lessened. One should not have to physically cry to understand the concept that if somebody is abusing you, it hurts. I shouldn't have to cry for that to make sense to you. They shouldn't have to cry and scream and beg for their lives for you to understand being shocked multiple times at just below the lethal limit is incredibly painful and hell on the mental health. This is what I mean when neurotypicals judge us based off of their responses, not ours. They continue to seem to not understand, to not wrap their brain around that our brains are not like yours. Our reactions to trauma are not going to be the same as yours. They may have similar elements. Oh, absolutely, there will be some similar elements there. But autistics in particular, who are forced from day one to mask, to turn off their emotions in order to not weird people out, all that. It shouldn't even be shocking that when we go through a prolonged abusive situation like this, that we've learned to shut ourselves off and go into third person perspective. It should be a no-brainer to you, considering that literally the majority of treatment programs besides person-centered planning is all geared into making us mask. It's almost a default setting, if you will. A not so fun byproduct. All right? It's ridiculous that you can sit there and try and tell me, but if they don't cry, then maybe it's not affecting them. Again, what is the main thing you all neurotypicals complain about in regards to us autistic folk? The number one thing. Come on, what is it? What is it? We don't communicate or move in a way that you can wrap your neurotypical brain around. Based off of that, you make gross assumptions, which are literally almost always completely and utterly wrong. If you keep that in mind, and also keep in mind that many neurotypicals who go through prolonged traumatic situations like this also do the same thing. In fact, similar behavior noted here can also be said in regards to many soldiers who come home and have PTSD. They also have those situations of full unresponsive shutdown for the same reasons. Maybe remember that before you write this, especially when it is in a final ban and you are from a federal department. All right, I'm going to get off the soapbox for now, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do tend to get removed from time to time. If you could, folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time this afternoon. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. I'll talk to you again in a few seconds. Bye-bye, everyone.